I was very lucky to grow up in a predominantly Italian neighborhood and learned a lot about cooking that way. A lot of the dishes I learned how to prepare growing up, um, although I use fresh ingredients when I can, of course, they do lend themselves quite well to using shelf-stable items and items directly from the garden. This particular recipe is a pasta that's prepared in the oven, and you don't have to cook it in water first. It saves some time, and it also would work in a Stoller oven. What you're going to need is some extra virgin olive oil, a can of diced tomatoes, salt and pepper, fresh basil or oregano. It traditionally calls for oregano. I prefer the basil. Some garlic, a pan, an 8x8 or 9x9 pan that you have generously buttered or oiled, and the biggest, juiciest tomatoes you can find. First thing we're going to do is cut up the tomatoes. Next, you want to take that can of diced tomatoes and you want to squish it up. You can use a blender if you have one and you want to. If you don't, you can just use a masher like I'm going to do. Now to the canned tomatoes that you crushed up. You want to add in your oregano or your basil, whatever you chose to use. The chopped garlic. About a third of a cup of extra virgin olive oil. You're going to need a little more to drizzle on the top too. Sprinkling of salt. I use smoked sea salt because I like the flavor it gives, and then I'm going to put in some cracked black pepper. After you have that mixed up, and if you wanted to, you could add a splash of sherry or marsala or some other red wine. If you don't mind consuming or cooking with alcoholic beverages and you're into it, go ahead and add it. If you don't do that, it's not your thing, just omit it, that's fine. Now we're going to take a half a box, you can just eyeball it, of one of the smaller pastas, like the mezze penne. If you put too large of a pasta in here, it's not going to cook. There won't be enough moisture to cook it, and then you're going to be saying that crazy Yankee told me this would work, and it didn't. So use a smaller pasta, stir it up, and then you're going to pour it in the pan you prepared that you lined with the fresh tomatoes. Now you take the remaining sliced tomatoes and you overlap them on the top so that the pasta mixture is completely encased in tomato. When you're done with that, you want to drizzle it with a little more extra virgin olive oil. And you put it in a hot oven, like a 450 oven, for about an hour. Could be a little less. You gotta check it, eyeball it. The tomatoes that are showing should be crispy. If you don't like tomatoes, you won't like this dish. That's about it. I'll film a little more when it comes out of the oven. Here we are. It's about 50 minutes later, and here's our pasta alla Formiana. Let me scoop some of this up here so you can see it. Look at that. Wish you could smell it. Now this, really good. So if you, and you decide to try it, let me know. Let me know how it turned out for you.